Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Office Hours. It is April 12th already. I feel like we just finished January, but I want to welcome all of the folks here on the stream with me. Ryan, Andy, Ice, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, of course.
It's always good to have a full house, and so we certainly have that today. Well, at least three of us do. One of us is pretending to have a full house behind him, but that backdrop is a little sus.
What do you mean? What are you referring to? Those are my hexagons. I've had hexagons up there for forever.
It looks exactly the same. For
Everything,
those of you that haven't been following the journey, Ryan is in the process of moving across the country, and as a result, a lot of his stuff isn't where it used to be.
Yes, the realtor recommended that we make all the rooms look like normal bedrooms instead of streaming studios with weird hexagons and lights. That may not appeal to every single buyer. So the house goes on the market next week. So I'm frantically trying to clean up everything, but I have none of my normal setup, so I'm bummed.
Right. Well, you sound good, you look good, and your internet is still somewhat spotty. So everything's like right on.
As expected.
Perfect.
And so, Andy, welcome. You still have your pyramid of triangles.
Yes, thank you. I was going to say, between Ryan and I, we have our geometric shapes. I feel like you and Isis need to like come up with your own backdrop of,
Well, so it's funny you say that.
Okay.
I have 24 of these. These are the same kind of lights that Ryan had in triangles. Mine are equilateral triangles, though, Ryan, Andy, where yours are not. Yours are right triangles. But the plan is right under here, like right under this shelf. There's going to be a long strip of these all along the wall, and then I can make them do colorful rainbows and all sorts of other stuff. And I've had these for 6 months, maybe 8 months. I can't get them to turn. I can't get more than half of them to turn on, and I can't get them to do anything but green, which is just what they turn on when I power them up. And so I think I need to figure out how to like hard reset the controller or something. I wish I knew somebody that knew something about smart devices because I'm really struggling.
What? Tough one.
Nobody comes to mind.
No comes to mind. All right. Well.
No. So.
I don't know if I find anybody.
Like, I'm not kidding though. Like I have.
Whoa! Look at that.
Those aren't cheap either. No, you should get those working.
I really want to get them working. I just have not been successful. So if you want a green lights, half of them, I can do that. I can definitely do that. Okay. So we're here for office hours, though. We're here to answer people's questions. And if you guys have anything about Alexa or Alexa development or even like Amazon stuff, we're happy to do our best to answer your questions. So that is what we will spend the next hour or so doing. And just to make sure everybody knows, like, we have a lot of people here on the call. I think it might be useful to have everybody understand kind of what our roles are. And so I'll start and we can just kind of go around the box and introduce ourselves. But I am Jeff Blankenberg. I am our chief technical evangelist, which means I spend a lot of my time thinking about building things for Alexa, for voice. And then I spend a lot of my time out talking to folks like you about what I've built, how we build it, how we use the new features, all those kinds of things. And then the third piece of that is that I listen to all of you and I bring a lot of your feedback back to our product team to help make it better. So that is that's basically me. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, so I'm also an evangelist. I work with Jeff and Andy quite a bit. A lot of what he says, just said, applies to me as well. I do a little bit more focus on evaluating a lot of the current material we have out there and trying to make them better, gathering feedback. So a lot of that is tutorials and workshops. And then I'm also currently tackling the big beast that is GitHub repositories and trying to put together a new strategy around that. So
yeah,
but spend my time in Slack, talking to people, answering questions. I love it because a lot of times, like by the time I get to Slack, a lot of the questions are already answered, which is phenomenal. So I love learning as well from the community. I was live streaming. I'll probably do live streaming again soon once I figured out moving and all that. But yeah, right. It's fun.
Awesome. Before we get to Andy, Ryan mentioned that he's spending a lot of time thinking about GitHub. And if you guys haven't been to our GitHub, it's github.com/Alexa. I probably even have one of these for that, I would think. but maybe not. No, it's not in my list. Anyway, you can go to github.com/Alexa, and we have lots and lots of repositories there. And there's actually 3 different places, right? There's /Alexa, then there's also /Alexa Labs. Is there a third one, Ryan?
Alexa Samples.
Alexa Samples. So if you are those 3 places.
I was getting ready to say, I'm going to create a new banner. And let me do this. I never created a banner. Look at this. Okay, if you go here, we actually have an index where you can get to all of our GitHub repositories. So Alexa Samples, and Alexa Labs.
Awesome.
We also have Alexa Games, which is hanging out there. We need to figure out what we're going to do with that. But yeah.
Cool. Now, the reason I bring this up is I'm sure a lot of you already use our GitHub repositories, and I want to get to Andy and Isis's introductions. But while they're introducing themselves, if you wouldn't mind, I'd be very interested to know, what is the GitHub repository you use the most? If you just want to drop it in the comments or whatever, I'd be very interested to know, what are the ones that you find the most valuable, or the ones that you use the most, or whatever. Or maybe you're like, I just found out you have GitHub. That would be helpful information too. Anyway, Andy.
Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Haldeman. I am a solutions architect / evangelist. I focus mainly on device makers. And so I've been building up my area of expertise with our smart home APIs. And I spend my time basically trying to build them and follow the documentation and see, see how it goes, just like you guys would. So it's been a fun learning experience. And then if I find anything that's off, I'll take that back to the documentation team, our tech writing team, to improve the documentation. Or if there's a bug in the code or something like that that needs to be fixed by our engineering team, I'll raise that as well. So that's where I spend a lot of my time. I'm also developing some workshops. So I'm spending my time building the code base for that. And hopefully you'll see me post a workshop soon. I've also, speaking of GitHub, end of last year, I created my own GitHub repo that teaches you how to send a change report to Alexa Event Gateway. And so that's there if you want to find it. I'm sure it's in the index that Ryan posted. Our naming scheme is pretty self-explanatory. So if you see send change report and the name of it, that's what it is. So that's what I do.
Cool. Thank you. And Isis.
Hello, everyone. Well, my name is Isis Lopez, and I'm a developer advocate. And well, I'm part of the team based in UA. We spent our time assessing all the inquiries you submit to us and try to give them a good response and a good so you can successfully certify your skills.
That's perfect. So Isis is one of the people behind Contact Us. So when you guys fill out Contact Us requests, she is one of the people that will respond to you. You don't get to pick the person you respond to. It just goes into a queue. But she is one of many that are there helping solve all of the big issues you guys are facing with Contact Us. So thank you for being here, Isis. And hopefully we'll have some good questions for you today as well. All right, so now that we have a few questions, let's get right into it. First, good morning to all the folks that are here, Habuma and A. Witters and Rockalok and Brian Tarbox. Don is here from YouTube, Gavin Watson. But Aniz, his first question is, hi, Alexa developers, will you help me create accounting software? We're probably not in a position to just make software for you, but if you have some specific accounting software needs, I think that there probably are some things that you could integrate Alexa into as you think about accounting software. As I just take that journey in my head, I could imagine like doing my expense report by voice. That would be pretty awesome. Yeah. Or being able to manage individual transactions, things like that. Like, hey, how much did we spend yesterday on widgets? Well, that might be a cool thing to be able to pull as well. But obviously, you're probably not going to build an entire accounting suite on Alexa. I think that there's some things that are best made for a spreadsheet. But being able to report off of that data or be able to insert data into that kind of accounting system, that seems interesting. But no, I don't believe we are going to be here to help you make it. But if you have questions about how do I do something or how do I solve this problem or what's the best approach for something, we would be more than happy to help steer you in the right direction. Mac Ewan on YouTube says, is integration with the Apple ecosystem in the future? You said the magic word, future. And so as a result of that, I have to make sure that I let everyone know we are not here, unfortunately, to be able to talk about the future. There are a lot of times that I really like to do that, but as part of office hours, one of the agreements we have, and we work with a bunch of different teams, is to make sure that we are not sharing our roadmap or any future path or decisions or things that Amazon is making. That's part of the agreement. We're allowed to come on air. We're allowed to talk to all of you and share a lot of interesting insights about Alexa and development and what's going on. But what we can't do is speculate or talk about future roadmap and things like that. So
here's something I found on the web.
Alexa,
According to Wikipedia,
stop. I'm not sure she's going to stop.
You said the magic word.
I did. So the question is, ultimately your question is, could I integrate with the Apple ecosystem? Apple does have a ton of developer APIs that you can plug into for a number of different services and things. So Alexa directly has some integrations with Apple. You see that with like Apple Music. My music provider on Alexa is Apple Music. There are a number of other services I think that you can integrate directly, like calendars and things like that. So I don't know exactly what you mean by Apple ecosystem, but if there's an API for it, you can build a skill for it. I want to make sure everybody understands that. Like there's nothing that Amazon or Alexa specifically has to do. If you want to build a skill and talk to a thing that has an API, you should do that. And you can do that. So no, I'm not aware of any very specific integrations with the Apple ecosystem. Maybe you're asking, will I be able to talk to Alexa on my iPhone or on my iPad or something like that? Those things are already possible today. If you open the Alexa app or the Amazon app, I don't think it's in the Audible app yet, but there's a number of different apps that we have available, and in each of those, Alexa is available, and you can talk directly to Alexa inside those apps. There's also there's a couple of other cool things if we're talking about Apple. I have, if you guys can see this well, never mind all the other stuff on the list, but you can see the Alexa logo. I got to cover my face. The Alexa logo that's up there, that big button on my screen is, it actually opens the Alexa app and opens the microphone and lets me start talking. I have, that is an integration that we have. That's just a widget based on the Alexa app itself. And then finally, the last piece I was going to mention is there's a cool app. I actually met the guy that created it. If you have an Apple Watch, he made an app called Voice in a Can. And awesome. It is Alexa on your Apple Watch. So there are lots of integrations. They're not all direct, but there are a lot of interesting ways today that you can use your Apple devices with Alexa. So Mac Ewan, I don't know if that's exactly what you were looking for as an answer. Hopefully I'll see maybe some more answers as we continue on, but hopefully that helped answer it a little bit. Well, you guys are challenging me on your names today. Judy Monty, we're going to go with on Twitch, said, hello, can I link my Google Calendar to a skill with reminders? How? I'd like to see the reminders I add to the Alexa skill show up on the calendar in real time. I'd also like Alexa to read the reminders I wrote in my calendar. So my understanding, and I am not somebody that relies on Alexa for calendaring very much. I'm managing a bunch of different calendars, and not all of them can sync with Alexa, so I haven't bothered to get too deep into that. But you do have the ability, specifically with Google Calendar, as well as a number of other calendaring services, to integrate your calendar directly with Alexa without a skill at all. And you can ask it, hey, what's my next appointment? Or what's my schedule look like today? All of that stuff works quite nicely. And what you're looking for is reminders. They're like, hey, you need to leave in 15 minutes. I'm guessing that's maybe what you're thinking. I don't specifically know how reminders work, but it seems like that's specifically what you're going for. And the fact that you're asking about Alexa skills leads me to say Google has a very rich API ecosystem, and that if you are building the skill, then you absolutely could call the Google APIs and gather up those reminders for a specific user and notify them. Notifications are limited on Alexa, but that's my thing. I'm hoping Andy or Ryan might have more to say on this.
I can talk a little bit about this. During the online learning in I can't remember what year that was, 2020 maybe. But when my kids were home doing online learning, we had 2 different schools and different schedules, and it was really hard to keep track of what their schedules were. So I created a distinct Google Calendar for each of their schools, and then I put in all of their schedules, and then I turned on reminders in Google Calendar, so it'd say remind me like 10 minutes before or something like that, or 5 minutes before. And then I linked it to Alexa, those 2 calendars. And then I had it so that Alexa would read out the reminders like before the meeting. So if you had 5 minutes in advance to say, oh, it's now time for lunchtime, or it's now time for this class or whatever. And so it actually worked very well because, throughout the day, we got this audible reminder from Alexa about our Google Calendar. Now that was just one way. I set up Google Calendar, had Alexa plug into it, and then I just had to read the reminders that I had set in advance on Google Calendar. I didn't do it the other way where I said, hey, put this reminder on my calendar and then read it to me later. That might be possible, I don't know. But I'm letting you know, like, at least it might solve some of your problem to set up reminders. You have to play around with the settings in the Alexa app, but you can definitely do that.
Awesome. That sounds like you've gone a lot deeper on this than I certainly have.
Oh, the lifesaver.
The reminders is the weird piece, because when we talk about reminders, we're talking about a proactive notification. We're talking about Alexa doing a thing without you speaking first, which generally doesn't. I mean, there are ways around that, but generally that doesn't happen. Almost all of the interactions that a user has with Alexa are generally done where you speak first and then it responds or gives you some information. Exceptions to that are things like routines, where you have things set up on timers, or where you have triggers from specific events. Like I don't know if I have it here. Yeah, this is a good example. This is the I'm forgetting the name of it. The Echo Flex, I believe this is called the Echo Flex, and I have a motion sensor built into the bottom of it. And so this motion sensor, when it detects motion, I can do anything. I can kick off a routine. I can call if this, then that. I can do all sorts of stuff with that. So those are ways that without speaking, you could kick that off. Now, Andy, you made kind of a weird face when I said that. Do you have differing opinion on that?
Oh, no, I thought I lost audio for a second.
Oh.
And I realized what happened was I was opening up the Alexa app, and because I paired my headphones to 2 different systems, it basically cut out the audio of the call. And at first I thought, wait a minute, is it me or is it you?
Got it.
So I'm good.
Yeah. Generally, that's a good way to think about it, though, is that Alexa won't say things to you unless you have said something first. And the exceptions to that are routines for the most part. Like, hey, at this time or this event or whatever, do this thing. Then it can do that. But outside of routines, the only other way that you'll receive any kind of sound at all is through notifications. And if you've had a notification on your device before, like the ring on your device turns yellow and just makes an audible like sound just to let you know that you have a notification, but it will not read the notification out loud. It won't tell you what your notification is or anything like that. So the user has to actually ask, what is my notification?
Let me look into that, because I know for sure that Alexa would read out my calendar updates without me saying anything.
Well, interesting. I wonder if that's some of the first-party calendaring stuff that has access to do so.
Possible.
Must be.
Alexa app now, so I'll let you know. We'll see if we can find out.
Reminder, you have a meeting in 5 minutes type thing.
Yeah, that was what it did. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I never connected my calendars. My calendar's crazy, and there's meetings every hour, so I didn't want that much talk.
Right. All right, moving on from calendaring, we're going to talk to Rockalok here. He just had an update that because of the input that we gave him from last week's session and some help he got in the Slack channel, he was able to get his proactive events working for the skill he built for his community. So that's super awesome. It's always good to hear that the work that we're doing here, the time that we're spending with all of you here in office hours is valuable. Sometimes I worry that you're showing up as a favor to us and we're showing up as a favor to you, and nobody actually needs to be here at all. But I think it's fantastic that one, we get new people every week with new questions, new interesting solutions and approaches. but also that those of you that are here regularly are getting the kind of support that you need. So that's awesome. And A. Witter said that he was on the Slack helping as well. So that's super cool.
That does not surprise me. A. Witters, you're amazing, by the way.
Yeah, I actually
Always helping.
reached out to him last week and just privately I gave him a thank you for all the time and energy and enthusiasm that he spends in Slack helping people. It's amazing.
Yeah, when I say that someone's usually beat me to answer in Slack, it's usually A. Witters. There's a bunch of people, but A. Witters is super helpful.
For
Appreciate
sure.
it.
Mr. Furstenberg wants us to integrate Alexa into spreadsheets. I think that's a good and a bad idea. I can see the benefits of it, but I feel like if you're really working on a spreadsheet entering data, it's got to be faster. Like it's got to be faster to use a keyboard. But it's an interesting idea, especially if you're talking about like form fills and stuff like that. I can see a lot of interesting ways where Alexa could be used. Tapster says the most used repos for them on GitHub are the Ask SDK core and the Ask SDK controls. That's awesome. It's good to know that you're playing with the controls. That's pretty awesome. Ask SDK core is pretty obvious. We use anytime you're doing any local development, you're going to need that pulled down to your machine. So good to know. Aztec Consulting says, why does Jeff still need more Funko Pops? I actually did just get a new one.
That's like a personal
very
attack.
limited.
Jeff.
I've been very limited in my purchases lately, but I was very excited that they started doing this. So I'll show you both of them. This was the first one I got. I haven't even taken it out of the box yet. It's obviously Batman. There we go. And instead of being the vinyl plastic like you see most of them made out of, these are die-cast metal. Like they're really quite, like even the box is fancy. And I haven't even like busted the seal on the box yet. I will do that. I'm not a box guy, but anyway, so I got Batman and then they did this one and I had to do it. So that's Iron Man. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm just going to get the die-cast ones that have the word man in them. I think that's how I'll do it. But anyway, that's Iron Man. So next. So I'm not, I don't really buy a lot anymore. Obviously I did it one time. But I feel like nice. Ron Swanson.
Yeah.
I feel like Funko for the most part, like, you know, I've got a huge Star Wars collection. I've got a huge Marvel collection. I've got this whole collection here behind me. And anymore, it seems like the bulk of what they're making is like a lot of anime and just nothing, not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just not my thing. And they're making lots of like stuff that I'm not into. So it's hard to be like, yeah, I want to get one of those. Everything I've collected, all the ones I have here are all kind of things that were important to me at some point in my life. Like we've got the boss from, if I can get my finger there, the boss from Office Space is right. Oh, can't I get my finger to go? There we go. Boss from Office Space. We got SpongeBob. We've got, there's a show called, what is that show called? It was on Comedy Central. It was three dudes that worked in an office poorly. I'm forgetting the name of the show. Anyway, not the point of the story.
Oh my gosh. What is the name of that show?
This was one of the guys.
Yes.
But I don't think it's going to say on here. No.
Oh my gosh.
We've got Cobra Commander and He-Man and all sorts of other, like things I was into when I was a kid. I just thought they were fun to have.
That's great.
Okay, moving on from Funko Pops. Brian Tarbox says, are there any updates on the Alexa Champions program? A few months ago, you said the leader of that program has left. Is the program still active? Well, first, let me reassure you. Yes, the program is very much still active. We actually have a pretty healthy private Alexa Slack that is only for champions, and a lot of them have a lot of their conversations there. But yeah, there are 72 Alexa champions globally, and we still use our relationship with them in a pretty solid way. We invite them to things like product decision-making sessions. We call them ADAC, Alexa Developer, basically their feedback sessions, right? The product team will sit down with them and say, hey, we're thinking about moving this direction. What do you think? What do you like? What do you not like? So that's the value to us, right? Is to have a selection of people that can do that. But we are also trying to continue to support them. We promote a lot of their work. We invite them to speak at a lot of things. So yeah, the program is still very much alive. It is not as alive as I would like. And we are still looking for an owner for that program, but things are coming along nicely from what I understand. Dana Voice says the Google developer program also seems to be in flux. That's interesting. I don't know anything about Google's program or its state, so I'm just reading Dana's words, but I don't want to.
That's the Google Developer Expert program.
Yeah.
So I think he brings it up to similar to the Champions.
And you didn't say it out loud, but the show was Workaholics. Thank you, Ryan.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I need to be interrupted. I talk too much. Okay. Habumo says, voice in a can is good stuff. I wish I could swap out Siri for Alexa on my Apple Watch. That'll likely never happen. That's his words. But voice in a can is pretty close. I agree. I think voice in a can is pretty awesome. And it's been around for quite a while. I think he published that initially in like 2018. It's an AVS implementation. It's pretty cool.
Maybe we need an Alexa watch. That is not anything I've ever heard. That's not future telling, but maybe that's what we need.
But I mean, Amazon does make like sport trackers and stuff, right?
Yeah, they have that health monitoring one.
Yep.
Doesn't have Alexa on it.
Halo, I believe it's called Halo.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, but there isn't any microphone or any kind of technology in there that would even make that possible. So, okay.
Someday.
Peter Rajesh says,
I do agree with that. I use voice in a can all the time. I would much prefer to have Alexa on my watch than Siri, but
yeah. Well, I think that's. I mean, we've talked a little bit about the voice interoperability initiative, and I think ultimately that is the world that we will start to head into. I don't know how and when and whatever, like what the shape of that will end up looking like, but the mission behind the Voice Interoperability Initiative, or VII, is the idea that many voice assistants can all live on the same device, and just by talking to them or using the appropriate wake word or whatever it is, allows you to talk to the one that you care about. This is especially prevalent in things like cars. I'll use BMW as an example. I'm not a BMW driver, but I know this is something that they have. BMW has a voice assistant in their car. And so you talk to the voice assistant by saying, hey, BMW, I want to do the thing, or how much gas do I have, or whatever. But in their latest models, the one that have Alexa built in already, you could say, hey, BMW, what's my calendar look like for today? Well, your car doesn't know anything about your calendar. And so what it does instead is says, oh, but Alexa knows that. So it hands it off and it says, hey, I'm going to let Alexa answer that for you. And then it funnels that directly to Alexa. And she says, oh, here's your calendar for today, right? It funnels that same command, that same event over to the other assistant. I would imagine that's a decent model for how we'll see a lot of this work. For every device that you buy, I've got all these Echoes here behind me. There will be a default, right? There'll be a default assistant, but you should be able to, by configuration or setup or whatever, be able to add additional assistants that are part of your whole pile of stuff. And so you should be able to talk to those as well. In the same way that when you're in your car, you talk to BMW. When you're in your kitchen, you talk to Alexa, but you could say, hey, ask BMW how much gas I have in my car or something like that. So that's how I imagine a lot of this stuff is going to work. I don't have the full understanding of exactly what the VII spec will be and how this will all function. They're still working those things out. But the idea that multiple assistants can live on one device, I think, will help us solve some of those problems in the future. Okay, Peter Rajesh, can we call an Alexa skill custom intent without voice? And otherwise, can we use this voice action, Alexa ask custom skill to do YYY via an API call? Kind of.
Yeah.
Sort of. We have Alexa for Apps is a technology that we have available. We announced this at Alexa Live last year. What Alexa for Apps allows you to do is, this is two ways. I'll describe the first one, which is not what you asked, and then I'll get into the one that you did. There are times where you need to kick off a very specific event or action inside a mobile app. One example that I saw when we announced this was TikTok. I know you guys all know I'm a huge TikTok fan. Ryan and I share videos with each other on the regular. We got to get Andy into that loop. I don't know how deep you are on the TikTok, Andy. Anyway, the idea is that you could talk to your device, and if you have this set up properly, the device could call to your phone, make an API call to your phone, open the TikTok app, and like start recording. So you could say something like, ask TikTok to start recording or whatever, and it can do that. You can make all of that stuff happen. That's called Alexa for Apps. It requires some integration, obviously, with the endpoint of your app and the endpoint of an Alexa skill, but you can do it. The other side of that is that we have the ability from a mobile app to tap on a button, or I would imagine there are other interface ways to do this. But by doing that, you can fire up an Alexa skill on a specific device and have it start talking to you using the skill or the intent that you're looking for. The piece that's missing for me is I don't know if you can call to a specific intent. We often call those custom tasks. Custom tasks are a way for you to call into a very specific part of a skill. I don't know if you can use the Alexa shortcuts stuff to get to a specific intent, or if you can just open the skill. But it might be possible. Shortcuts might allow you to go directly to an intent. Do you guys happen to know?
I don't know that. Yeah, I think the big problem here is, well, okay, so my take on this, you could easily create, like, let's say you're hosting this in AWS Lambda or similar endpoint, the normal flow, you talk to the skill, a JSON request comes to your backend. You could abstract everything away to a centralized service that actually does all the logic handling and then create an API for that. So you could have two ways of getting to the same logic that handles any sort of intent. I think the issue is getting the response back to Alexa. Jeff's doing the best he can to like figure out what are the current Alexa like trigger, because the whole idea is we don't want developers, and you wouldn't want another developer to write a skill and then be able to push messages constantly to your device and have it be talking constantly. Like, hey, a new ad, like go buy a new car or whatever. Like nobody wants that experience. So the experience has to be very careful that the user has initiated it. And if we just have a blanket API, there's no guarantee that the user initiated that API request. Anyone could just call that API. So that's the worry about having an open API. But what Jeff's been talking about are the different ways that we've created that through other means that we can control that the user has started the intent process by pushing a button or doing a routine, something like that.
Right. I think it always has to be because the user wanted it.
Yes.
There will almost certainly never be a time, I could be wrong about this, but I can't imagine a time where Alexa will just do a thing even though you didn't want that to happen in some way. As we venture further and further into the idea of machine learning and AI, we have things like hunches today that are trying to predict, like, I think you probably want this light turned off or stuff like that. But you're not going to have it start talking. You're not going to have a skill experience just open on the fly. But if it's a pattern you've already exhibited, hey, it looks like you turn that light off around 10 o'clock every night. I'm going to start turning it off for you at 10 o'clock every night. Like that's a really handy thing. I would want it to do that, but it's doing it based on inputs I've given it previously. It's not just a developer saying, hey, I'm just going to ask them an hourly poll, right? Like that would not be responded to very well.
Yeah, and the reason why this came up for me actually, so I bought a smart light that only worked with Alexa, and I have a Stream Deck, and what I wanted to do was have a button on my Stream Deck that would also turn off on and off like lights without using voice control. And I was trying to figure out how I can go from my Stream Deck to an API or something to actually trigger the light, and that's where I was trying really, really hard to be able to do this. But I never figured out the right solution that allowed me to do that. I just bought the wrong light that didn't have like other controls to it. Only Alexa. Maybe it was an outlet. I don't remember what it was, but I was trying to do that. And I'm like, I'm not trying to, like, this is only for me. Like, it's me. It's my device. Let me, send a custom message. But we gotta be careful.
You do have to be careful for sure. All right, moving on. We have Dana Voice asking, I have a number of routines that are kicked off by my Echo Show 10 4th gen, recognizing that I'm here, but the timing is interesting. I actually have to wait before the action I actually want to be done. That is one of the challenges with routines is there is a bit of latency. Especially you're talking about the Echo Show 10 4th gen. Is that the spinny screen one? I think it is. the recognition and routines, there can be some latency on those things where it's like, oh, I recognized you, I'm going to go do a thing, but it's not everything is like instantaneous. And so especially if you have a few, like you said, you have a number of routines that are kicked off by recognition, I can imagine that it's like fire 1, fire 2, fire 3, right? And so then you've got API calls and latency on the other end, and then all that stuff has to turn around and come back. So yeah, I can definitely understand why there would be some of those things. Even though we're talking about electrons moving around about the world, it's still going to have some chug to it. And a good example of that is if you've done almost anything with smart home. I have most of the lights in my house and light switches and all sorts of stuff rigged up. And if I say, turn off the kitchen, like it's got to capture the voice, it's got to transmit that to a server, it's got to interpret it, it's got to understand the command, then it's got to route that thing to the appropriate smart home or multiple smart home controllers and get all the lights to turn off. And initially my wife was very surprised when there's five different light banks in our kitchen area, and they don't all just go like it's like they kind of turn off one at a time, but they're made by different vendors and different, it's the fact that they all turn off at all was supposed to be the magic. But she was expecting like, well, just everything goes off at once. Quell, I'm not calling you Q311 anymore. Quell has said he has a Starbuck and Apollo Pop. Awesome. It feels like this community, everybody's got like one or two. Andy's got Ron Swanson sitting on his desk, but I know off camera there's like 400 more. And
for me, no.
I
have one other one.
Do you
I
have
have a glow in the dark Mr. Burns? That's the other one I have.
Glow in the dark Mr. Burns? Isn't that one's kind of valuable, isn't it?
I don't know. I got it for Christmas. It was a it's still in the box, but it's the one from the I think it's like the X-Files spoof episode where they he gets his injections, comes out of the forest, he's glowing, Anyway, yeah, I have that one.
I'm looking it up for you. There's an app that will tell you. Is it he's all green like this one?
He's not green. He's not green. No, it's just kind of white, but like you charge him next to a lamp or something like that, and you turn off the lamp and he glows. So it's probably a newer one. It's newer model.
That's the only glow in the dark Mr. Burns.
Oh, it's not green.
Interesting. Anyway, that one is worth $65. So that's pretty good for a pop.
Nice.
Okay. Quill also said, too bad the Alexa wand went away. You could scan the barcodes on your Funko Pops and add that to a database to track which ones you have. Yes. Two things to that. He's referring to this device. This is the Alexa Dash Wand. It's magnetic. It was meant to put on your fridge. You could push this button. You could talk to Alexa. This device has been discontinued and the battery's dead. But it has a barcode scanner in it. And so the idea was you have it on your fridge. When you run out of something, you use this and you just scan the thing that you're about to throw away, and it adds it to your shopping list so that you can not forget that you just used up all the stuff. The thing with this, though, is they never exposed any APIs or anything. So this would only scan something and put it on your shopping list. There wouldn't have been a way for you to like scan and then insert this into an Airtable or a Dynamo or whatever. That was never there. But I always thought this was a super cool device, and I wish it had stuck around. Okay. Gavin Watson guest IT Crowd. Not the show I was thinking of, but it is three people working in the IT software development world, and is also very hilarious. Has everybody watched that show, Andy? Have you seen IT Crowd?
Yeah. I have not, no.
Andy, I know what you're doing this weekend. And watch the whole series. I don't know what service it's on, but we'll find that out.
Yes,
it is hilarious. You will identify with everything that happens in the show. It was a British sitcom. Probably 8 or 10 years old now, but it was great. Absolutely great. Okay. Habuma says, I have a few pops, mostly Disney parks related. Haunted Mansion is behind me right now, and I received Mickey, Minnie, Pluto on the People Mover just yesterday. Habuma, do you live near Disney? That's awesome. Very, very cool. I thought you meant that you got Mickey, Minnie, and Pluto while you were on the People Mover. That was my first instinct, but I think what you're saying is that there are pops of Mickey, Minnie, and Pluto on the People Mover themselves.
That
makes more sense to me now.
Yeah.
I'm a little slow, but I catch up. Crack Mac guest Workaholics TV show. That is correct. It is Workaholics. Don wants to know, how does one get named an Alexa champion? This is a fantastic question that I don't have a really solid answer for. We have a set of selection criteria that we use, and going forward, the way the program will look is that there will be an annual, I don't know if you want to call it a renewal process or whatever, but we will identify people that meet a set of criteria. Usually it involves things like activity in Slack, like how are you supporting the community? Are you speaking? Are you creating content? Are you building amazing skills? Are you active on social media? Like all of those things kind of piece together to create, let's call a profile for an Alexa developer or even a creator, right? You don't have to be a software developer to be an Alexa champion. And so we take all of those criteria into consideration. We rank all of those people, and then we have a number of seats that we can have open as Alexa champions. So my expectation is that once we get this program running back to full force, is that there will be an annual renewal process. Even those that are Alexa champions today will have to reapply. They'll provide all their information, all the things that everyone has to go through. And then a new crop of 2023 champions or whatever it is will be announced. And that will happen every single year. If the program gets big enough, then you move to like quarterly announcements or whatever, so that not everybody's on the same day, but it's kind of a rolling calendar. But that's about as specific as I can get with the selection process. But having a wildly successful skill is not a requirement. Being an amazing software developer is not a requirement. If you're having a massive impact on the world of voice, we're very interested in talking with you. Okay. Thank you, Don. That's a great question. Brian Tarbox says, Echo Buds are a great option to always have Alexa available. I couldn't agree more. Echo Buds are my new default headphones. I have a really nice set of like the Bose Quiet Comforts that I normally wear on airplanes and stuff, but I find, when you sit down, I travel a decent amount. When you sit on an airplane, right, you've got that giant case that your big Bose headphones come in, and that's in your backpack. And so you've got to like dig all that stuff out. You're not going to just hold on to it. But the Echo Buds, I actually want to show you guys two things. The Echo Buds in their battery case are this big, right? This is tiny. And so this fits in my pocket the whole time I'm traveling through the airport, whatever. And it's easy to pull them out. And the battery life on these, plus the battery case, is like a day. So I've never even come close to running out of battery. But the thing I wanted to talk about is that I am a big fan of, I don't even know how to pronounce their name. I think it's Anker. Can you guys see that? So they make a custom charger just for Echo Buds. This is it. It comes in two colors, I think. And you just set them in that little oval that you see on the thing. And then on the front here, I don't know how well you can see that. There's a few lights. And the lights actually show you, because the buds are communicating with this base, they actually show you how charged your headphones are and how charged the case is.
Oh, nice.
So when you just set it down, it automatically shows you all that information. And it uses a USB-C charger, which is kind of cool. So anyway, that's it's a nice way to charge them, because you don't have to plug them in. You just set them on the thing and they go. All right, enough commercials about products. Dana Voice says the routine, I think you were talking about, the routines run on the Echo Show 15. He's trying to supplement the widgets because we can't build widgets yet. Very cool. Habuma says he really enjoys his Echo Buds also, but he's super anxious to get his Talk Socket. I spent some time talking to the Talk Socket folks a little while ago. If you guys don't know what Talk Socket is, it's a pop socket, one of those devices that fits on the back of your phone, makes it easy to hold. But there's an Alexa microphone built into the pop socket itself. And so it allows you to talk to Alexa directly on your phone, like literally on your phone, because it's stuck to your phone or your case. Andy.
I know, I got one.
Here we go. Dana Voice wants to know, what devices do you have that use Matter, since that's the subject of the latest Alexa blog?
Great question. Well, let me give some context first for those who don't know what he's referring to there, or she. I don't know who Dana Voice is. But anyway, yesterday we posted a blog about commissionable endpoint, and that's related to Matter. It's a feature that Amazon had previously announced. and we actually have the documentation for it as well that was published. And so commissionable endpoint is a way for you to let Alexa know that you have a device that is ready to be commissioned. And what that means is you can set up a local connection between your Matter device and a Alexa admin, like an Echo. And so the advantage of doing something like that is that you can have a local connection and a cloud connection through your skill to the same device. And some commands will run faster if there's a local connection set up. Some of those commands can be run locally and will happen much faster than going through the cloud. And so we are encouraging people to implement commissionable endpoint. And the question that Dana has is around, which devices will Amazon have that will support Matter. And so we've announced that previously, but I'll just remind everybody, most Echo, Echo Dots, Echo Plus, Echo Studio, Echo Show devices will have Matter support. And what that means is once the Matter SDK is released, those devices will get a software update that will allow you to commission and control Matter devices. So coming soon to an Echo device near you is how I would say that. So hopefully that answers your question, Dana Boyce.
Yes. So the answer is no devices have Matter today.
Correct.
But we expect that there will be many in the coming months and years.
Yes. Once the Matter SDK is released, that's the key point there.
Perfect. A. Witters is calling out that there was another blog post in late March announcing custom tasks with Alexa routines. For those of you that aren't familiar with what this is, this basically allows your Alexa skill to create a routine programmatically for your user. Now, there's a number of reasons why you may want to do this. You may want to make it very easy for them to have a simple command that they can use to do a specific thing inside your skill. But one of the things that I personally, the first time I read about this with our product team, the thing that stood out to me is that this is a way for you to help continue to engage and retain your users. Because one of the challenges we have today is that in order for a user to use your skill, they have to remember its name. And so I used the example of a skill I had a while back. I called it 3 clues. The whole point was I would give you 3 clues, and then you would have to guess what those 3 clues had in common. And I had all these really clever names for what I thought I might call that skill. But at the end of the day, I decided to call it 3 clues because I wanted it to be easy to remember. But let's say I hadn't done that, or let's say I had a very custom brand name. I always like to use the word Verizon. It's a totally made-up word that has become a big brand. And so if you had a name like that for your company, lots of startups have strange, odd names, your user may not be able to remember the name of your skill, but they might remember that it was a chess game or that it was a puzzle or whatever. And so what you could technically do is programmatically create a routine for the user that is just basically a pseudonym for your skill. So I could create a custom routine that is, I'll use a very specific example. If you talk to your device today and you say the wake word and then you say, what's the weather? You're going to get the first party weather experience that happens on the device. But if you went into your app and you manually created a routine and said, when I say what's the weather, I want you to open Big Sky. Or not Big Sky, Dark Sky? Why am I forgetting the name of that skill?
I thought it was Big Sky.
It's not Big Sky. I think it's Dark Sky. Anyway, that's not the point. But yeah, it's Big Sky. Sorry. So I instead want the Big Sky weather skill because I really like the experience of that one better. You could create a routine that says, when I say what's the weather, I want you to open the Big Sky skill. You could now do that programmatically where you create a very custom phrase for the user that they will not have any challenge remembering. It doesn't require them to use your wake word or your invocation name. It doesn't require any of that stuff. But my understanding, and I have to verify this, but I'm pretty sure that you can only programmatically create one routine for a user. And you specify a custom task inside your skill that when they say that thing, it will go do whatever the activity is inside of your skill. So this is not a thing I've actually built myself yet. So I'm explaining it based on the theory, based on how I understand this. But I think it's a really remarkably cool thing, allowing people to build a custom routine for their user to talk to their skill, to do something with their skill on the fly without having to be like, hey, if you can create a routine, this would work for you. You can just make it happen. I think that's a big advancement, and it's going to start a trend where users now get a better feel for like, wait, I can create all these custom things that do things exactly the way I want them to. Hopefully we'll see some growth in the amount of routine usage that we see as well. Okay. A. Witters, this is a little while ago, but he said the voice monkey skill allows you to invoke routines via an API. Interesting. I haven't seen the voice monkey one. I'll have to take a look at that. Peter Rajesh, back on the click a button. I want to click a button in my app and call the skill. Maybe account linking can make this one-to-one call to keep it secure. No, it's easier than that. Alexa for apps shortcuts. This is a no-code solution, honestly. This is the blog post. I don't know if this is really what I want. No, this is pretty good.
That usually gets you to where I need to go.
I'm going to take this, drop it into the comments. Alexa for apps shortcuts, Peter, is what you're looking for. And it literally is just a custom URL that you add your skill ID onto the end of. And then when you tap a button, it will launch a web page for the user on the phone. They are going to see a list of their devices, assuming they're logged into their Amazon account on their phone. If they're not, they'll be asked to log in once, and then it'll remember. But they just tap on one of their devices, and then boom, the skill will just start running on whatever that device is without them having to use their voice to kick it off. This is also a really nice accessibility thing. This potentially allows people to get information and interact with Alexa in a way that doesn't require them to use their own voice. It's a little more clunky than that, right? Because they can't reply, but it does give them the ability to kick off a skill or get the weather information, anything like that. Okay, Brian Tarbuck says, Alexa already tries to sell me stuff spontaneously. It sends a notification that I could buy an Audible book. Brian says, I have turned it off, but I still hate that it exists. I fully appreciate that. I think that there's never going to be a time, if you think about any platform anywhere doing anything, there's always someone that's going to say, well, we could sell them something through this. And I know that especially with Alexa, we are trying to be so incredibly conscious about that because we don't want the device to be annoying. If you pull the plug on the back, it stops working. So we want you to keep the device on so that it serves the purpose and the utility that you want it to serve. But when you're at a company like Amazon that sells millions and millions of products also, they just want to make sure you're aware of the products that you should care about. But I agree. Those kinds of things can be super annoying. I won't deny that at all. Kaufman Analytics says, Philips Hue has a pretty great API. What I wanted to have is an Amazon button trigger a Lambda function that would turn my light on and off, but I've never been able to get it to work. I'm almost curious.
He has more down below.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I think
the thing that doesn't work about it is that I can't get my Lambda, can't reach into my local network. I think that's the problem.
Got it. So Kaufman Analytics, I can tell I've done this. I haven't done it specifically with your Philips Hue stuff, but any smart home device for the most part, unless you are completely on a closed system that only operates inside your house, which a lot of the older smart home style systems were, there were no internet calls. It was talking to a centralized server someplace in the house that would make all the calls there. But any modern smart home stuff, there is a cloud-based component to all of them. And as a result of that, you shouldn't need to call anything into your local network, your local anything. And the example I'll use, I have a LifeX bulb. It's just a competitor to Philips Hue. It makes all sorts of colors and lights and whatever. I used to have a lamp that sat right here. And it had a LifeX bulb built into it, or not built, but attached to it. And so I had it set to a color. It would be green or red or yellow or whatever. And I built an Alexa skill that talked to. I was actually in the middle of this was if this then that, and so I was actually making a call directly to the webhooks in if this then that. If this then that had an integration with LifeX, so I could go in and say when this webhook is triggered, I want this light bulb to change to the color that I specify, and I was grabbing the color out of the payload from the user speaking, and allowing then that light to change. Now I was building my own custom interaction with this using if this then that. But what it allowed me to do is build an Alexa skill that the public could use, but that they would only ever change my lamp. It wasn't for their lamp. It wasn't for their bulb. It was for one bulb specifically in my account that I'd assigned to this lamp, so that anybody that wanted to use that skill while they were watching me broadcast like this, they could change the light to green or purple or whatever. And so as I'd be broadcasting, every once in a while out of the corner of my eye, I'd see the wall change color because someone had opened the skill and changed the color. It was really fun. It was interactive because you're watching a live stream and you talk to it, and boom, the light changes in the guy's background. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest too, is using webhooks with if this and that. I had a Wemo plug that basically did the same thing.
Yeah.
I just plugged a lamp into it and could turn it on and off.
The webhook stuff and if this and that, like that unlocked the world for me. Now I can do anything.
Oh yeah,
Right. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And if you guys aren't using if this and that, it is one of the coolest services you'll ever find. You can basically make anything work with anything. And I think it costs like $4 a month. It used to be free. You can build I think you can build 3 things for free, and after that it's like $4 a month. It's totally worth it. Totally worth it. The first time I did geofencing on my phone using if this and that, and every time I would just pull onto my street, my garage would open. That was like, whoa, this is so yeah. There's lots and lots of cool things you can do there. Okay. I don't think Habuba says he does not live near Disney, but he goes there frequently, and he sent a link to the one he got yesterday, which looks like it's sold on Amazon. Awesome. I'll have to check that out. Gavin Watson wants to know if there's an early release discount program for Alexa developers for new Alexa devices. Well, 1, no. 2, I wish there was. 3, I am not optimistic that there will be. But that being said, if yes, do you have more info? No, I don't have more info because no, that does not exist. If not, can this be suggested? Yes, I'm actually writing a doc right now inside Amazon that this seems like it would be a brilliant thing to include. And so, yes, Gavin, this is going to go on my list of things that I'm going to be recommending to my team later this month. So thank you for recommending it. That's great. It would be beneficial for developers to test on upcoming devices before they are released to the public.
Yes.
The real challenge to all of this, the real challenge is that the devices generally aren't ready until they're available to the public. Like I will tell you, as an example, I know lots of you have asked me, hey, when can I get an Astro? I can't get my hands on an Astro. And so the idea that there would be a pool of them that are available for developers to use before they're available at retail, that's a tight window. I mean, it might be a week, maybe. I don't know. However long it takes us to get all of those things out to like Best Buy stores and whatever, like maybe that window, we could find a way to work something out, but we'll have to think on that. Did I get to the end of the questions? Was that the last one?
Scroll down a bit. There's just more information.
You refreshed. Perfect. Thank you. I want to finish that up. Gavin, I will look into it. I'm not making any promises, but I will definitely look into it. Rockalock. About a year ago, I built a skill called What Should I Say to allow the user to log the skills they like to use along with the phrases that they like to use with them. Oh, we're at time. Wow. Of course, you have to take the time to log them in the first time, not as elegant as a routine, though. That's pretty cool, though, Rockalock. I like that.
Yeah.
It's a very clever solution to a problem that existed. The voice monkey skill I mentioned earlier will allow for a Lambda to call an API to run a routine to turn a hue light on. Very cool, A-Witters. I think that's probably a way around if this then that.
I'm going to check that skill out for sure. Voice monkey.
Kaufman Analytics says, is if this then that better than Zapier? I think it's different. Zapier doesn't have all the smart home device integrations, and I think that's where one of if this then that's strengths is that literally everybody that has made a smart home device, every company, every manufacturer, they all have integrations there, which means I can just go in, give it my credentials once, see a list of my devices and say, do this to this thing when this thing happens. I also use Zapier for a bunch of stuff. For those of you that are on our Slack, you may notice that there are channels for things like Twitter and YouTube and Twitch and stuff like that. All of Zapier is handling all of that for us. So when we say something on Twitter on the Alexa Devs handle or on the Alexa 99 handle, those messages are automatically brought in and shared inside Slack. Yeah, we use Zapier quite a bit as well. I'm familiar with both, and I just think they're different. There is some overlap for sure. I think that Zapier gives you more data formatting and control, and If This Then That is more like brute force. If I get an email from this person, turn off the light in my kitchen. Like you're probably not gonna do that in Zapier. Okay, I think we have gotten to the end. I also have to run. I think we're right at time. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Fantastic set of questions. Don't forget to join us on Slack, alexa.design/Slack. We'd love to have a conversation with you there the rest of the week. And with that, I don't know about Andy and Isis, but Ryan and I, neither of us will be here next week. So we are traveling and doing stuff, and he's got realty stuff to worry about. I'm going to be on an airplane, so we will not be here next week, but our fabulous colleague, Stefania Sharp, who is often in the chat, will be here. So if you have questions for her or you want to know about the things that she's working on, bring your questions, and we'll see you again next Tuesday. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.